Hollywood blockbusters typically overwhelm the senses with noise and destruction. Yet, amidst the chaos of the recent Godzilla and Kong films, the emotional anchor remained a young girl communicating entirely in silence. Kaylee Hottle made her feature film debut at just 9 years old. Her performance as Chia showed global audiences a version of a blockbuster hero they had never seen before in cinema, a deaf child who held her own alongside the industry's biggest stars. Her rise was met with a sudden, devastating end. On a Tuesday morning in Frederick County, Maryland, the vehicle she was traveling in went off the road. At the time of the crash, she was just 18 years old. Authorities cited excessive speed as a factor in the crash, a detail that often hardens a family's grief into anger. Instead, Kaylee's father, Joshua, used a Facebook livestream to address the 19-year-old driver in American Sign Language. He signed, "I have forgiven you." Don't let this incident ruin the rest of your life. A grieving father offering immediate grace to the person responsible for his daughter's death suggests a capacity for empathy that feels almost alien in its intensity. This exact same profound empathy defined Kaylee's entire life, from her very first audition to her final moments. Kaylee was born into a multi-generational deaf family, where American Sign Language was the primary connection. This grounded upbringing meant she entered the industry not as a manufactured child star, but as a young woman with a strong sense of identity. She had never seen a monster movie before being cast in the franchise. To prepare her, her parents translated high-stakes Hollywood tropes into a language she understood, bridging the gap between an orphaned character on Skull Island and her own life in Texas. This foundation of patience and translation became her blueprint for the industry. Kaylee navigated the massive scale of a studio set by showing those around her how to communicate across a linguistic divide. Kaylee's professionalism forced a shift in the way major productions operate. Instead of viewing her deafness as a logistical hurdle to be managed by interpreters, her A-list co-stars began to bridge the gap themselves. Alexander Skarsgård was so impressed by her ability to incorporate complex directorial notes that he learned American Sign Language to speak with her directly, bypassing a middleman on set. This chart shows the American Sign Language alphabet. Her character Gia uses these signs to bond with Kong, creating a unique connection. Kaylee advocated for this visibility, pushing for more deaf actors and crew to be hired across the industry. Centering American Sign Language in a global billion-dollar franchise normalized deaf culture for millions of viewers. It signaled a move toward authentic representation, where a character's identity is an integral part of the story's strength. The tributes following her death were immediate and personal. Millie Bobby Brown and Rebecca Hall shared their devastation, describing a young woman whose kindness left a lasting impression on everyone she worked with. Oscar winners like Marlee Matlin and Troy Kotsur also mourns the loss. They saw Kaylee as a successor, a young actor who was already carrying the torch for the next generation of deaf performers. At her school in Austin, the mourning was institutional. The Texas School for the Deaf mobilized counseling for her classmates, acknowledging the massive void left by a student who had become a source of pride for the entire campus. The scale of this mourning, from Hollywood sets to an Austin classroom, suggests Kaylee had become more than just a successful actor. She served as a vital bridge between two different worlds. Returning to the image of Joshua Hottle's livestream, we see a father choosing to prevent another life from being ruined by a singular, tragic mistake. His act of forgiveness remains as striking as the crash itself. This capacity for empathy was the environment that shaped Kaylee. The quiet strength she brought to her films wasn't a performance. It was a direct reflection of the values her family lived every day. In her short career, Kaylee changed the expectations for deaf performers. Her co-stars learned her language, the script centered her perspective, and she proved authentic casting works in a way that remains documented on film. Kaylee Hottle leaves a permanent legacy. She remains a historic trailblazer for cinematic representation and a real-world example of how radical empathy can quiet even the loudest tragedies.